point.
Mhm.
And what I'm looking for is the first place that I start is like the quarterly earnings and sales. Bill O'Neill recommends 25% or higher. Most of my stocks that have done really well tend to be in the 30 to 35% or higher when they first start out. So if I see that they have 35% earnings and sales, I put an asterisk next to it because like that's one that I definitely want to pay attention to. But I look for 25% annual earnings growth, 25% quarterly earnings, quarterly sales, and then I do also look at the next quarter projected earnings.
Mhm.
Um, Based on my experience, even with Aetna, it's very hard to predict out too far in advance. So I will generally look at the next quarter and I do look at what's expected for like the upcoming year.
Right.
Beyond that, it doesn't matter how good of a predictor you are. Something like COVID can happen, something can happen with one of your competitors. It's really, really hard to predict too far out. So I tend to look at the next quarter and then the upcoming year. And I want there to be generally, ideally 25% or more, but at least 20%. So if it kind of meets those four criteria, then it's going to kind of go on my focus list where I drill down more. So once it meets that criteria, I do look at comp ratings. I will look at the EPS rating, the comp rating. Typically, when it's in the top 15 of the IBD 50, they tend to be 98s and 99s. Even if it's like 95 or higher, generally, like I'm fine with that. I look at the RS, and in addition to the RS rating, which I like to be above 95, I look at the RS line because the RS rating incorporates a longer period of time. I want to see like how is the line performing now.
Right.
So that's definitely something that I look at. I will look at the industry group. So I don't start with industry groups. I start with kind of like those quarterly earnings and sales. But a lot of times, like when I look at the IBD 15, there will be stocks. So for example, like right now, when you look at like the CrowdStrike, the Z-scalers, they're all in similar groups.
Right.
So as I'm going through the 15, I'll start to get a sense of, wow, I'm seeing a lot of software stocks, or I'm seeing a lot of this type. And so then that just kind of, will put that in my head of, okay, like this is probably an industry group to watch. So those are some of like the fundamental criteria that I start out with. Then I will put that into like I have on MarketSmith, I actually have like three watch lists that I've created. So one is it's sort of like my universal list, which will be things that maybe right now they aren't hitting the 25% earnings and sales, but they could be hitting other criteria. So for example, I really like New America because I'm trying to find like what are some of the new emerging leaders. They